Next up, we're going to talk about the conic section ellipse. You can see that an ellipse is formed by taking a cross section of one of the double cones, one of the cones in a double cone, and instead of going flat across, if you put it at an angle, you'll end up taking a cross section that looks like a flattened circle or an oval, and it is called an ellipse. So there are a couple different forms that you'll see an ellipse equation in. Here is x minus h, so there will be a number in the parentheses squared divided by a number plus y minus a number squared divided by a number equals 1. That's going to typically be how we see an ellipse. It will always equal 1, and it will have an x squared, and it will have a y squared. The only difference between this and a circle is this dictates the radius of a circle, so the size. In an ellipse, it's always 1. So the number that the x is being divided by and the y being divided by, that is going to dictate the size of the ellipse. So the center of the circle is the same as you would get for a circle. It will be hk. So it will be the opposite of the number in the parentheses with the x and the opposite of the number in the parenthesis with the y. If a is greater than b, then the major axis is parallel to the x-axis, which means the longer line will be side to side. I'll show you a little bit this more in detail when we do our examples, but it will be longer width-wise than it is height-wise. Okay? If A is less than B, then the major axis or the longer axis will be up and down. And I'm going to show you as we go through the notes on the back and do examples how you know how wide it is or how tall it is. You might see an equation without parentheses, and that just means if the x doesn't have parentheses, it hasn't been moved left or right, the center, and if y doesn't have parentheses, it hasn't been moved up or down for the center. So same thing here. If A is greater than B, then the major axis is parallel to the x-axis, and if A is less than B, then it will be taller. Now it does say in here, if we look back up here, the major axis is parallel. That just means the longer one will be parallel to the x-axis, and the length of the major axis is 2a, which means when you look at a like a major axis, which is, it's kind of like a radius, but with an ellipse there is no radius, but the distance from here to here is going to be A. I'm going to redraw this a little bit bigger. The distance from here to here is going to be A. So when it says 2A, it means from here to here is double that. The distance from here to here will be B. Okay, so you'll take the number underneath in the denominator. Let's do A first. You'll take the number underneath the x. It's A squared. You'll have to square root it. Whatever that is, that will be the distance from the center to sideways to the edge. And then back is the same A. And then up is B. And that holds true here when you have it more up and down. So B. Basically, you take the number underneath the y, square root it, and that's the height from the center to the top and the center to the bottom. And then the number underneath the x, you'll square root it, and that will be A. Let's try some examples on the back.